record this. Sorry. All right, and then let's share my screen. So what you should see right now in front of you is a slide that says common MLS mistakes. Can I see a thumbs up from somebody that it does say that? Good, I saw it. Okay, so here are the common MLS mistakes that are made that will most likely result in a violation. Let's start with entry mistakes. What mistakes you make when you first enter your listing into the MLS. There is an MLS rule. It's mandatory submission of listings. When no public marketing has taken place, the property must, and I say it again, it must be entered into the MLS within 2 business days of the listing start date. So what's the listing start date? Oh, wait, let's go back. The listing start date. The listing start date can be one of 2 things. It's either the date that is on the contract, and in order for there to be a valid contract, there has to be a beginning date and an end date. So the beginning date of the contract, if all parties have signed that contract, on that date, the beginning date or prior, then that is the start date. Now, if you have a start date of April 1st, but not all the parties that need to sign have signed it until April 5th, the start date of that contract is April 5th, not April 1st. So when you input that into the MLS, you will input the listing start date as April 5th, not April 1st. So that's important to note. So when you submit your listing into the MLS, it can go in 3 different categories. It could be excluded from the MLS, which is an office exclusive. It could be a coming soon, or it can go in as an active. Those are your 3 choices when inputting into the MLS. That's it. Now, if you want to put it into the MLS as if you want it to go in as hold, that you're not really ready, you have a contract, but they still have things they need to do, they're not ready to show it, you have to put it in as active, then immediately put it onto hold. That's important to note. Elizabeth, is the start date the same as the date of acceptance? We're talking about listings, so it's not really acceptance. The start dates would be either the start date on the contract, the beginning date on the contract, or the date that everybody who needs a sign has signed, whichever is later. That's the start date. So the first thing you might do is exclude it from the MLS, and that's an office exclusive. So that means that within 2 business days of the listing start date, you must register the listing with the MLS by, this is for ChrisNet members. You exclude it, have an exclusion from the MLS signed by the seller and the broker, and you must submit the first and the last page of the listing agreement. So this is for ChrisNet SRAR members. You have to submit the exclusion from the MLS and the first and the last page of the listing agreement. And then you email that to the MLS, and that's the email address, mls@srar.com. You can use the CAR exclusion, which is the SELM. but make sure that you check MLS Clear Cooperation Policy. There is not one MLS in our area, in our service area, that does not abide by Clear Cooperation Policy. And I'll explain Clear Cooperation Policy in a little bit. So if you're using the SCLM, make sure that you check that box. The next SRAR also has their own SCLM, own exclusion. You can use that one if you want. It doesn't matter which one you use as long as you have it signed and it is sent with the first and the last page to the MLS. So the MLS or CLAW, once again, within 2 business days of the start date, you have an exclusion form and the first and the last page of the listing agreement, and you send that to compliance at themls.com. Now, the MLS also has their own form, and this is a copy of it too. You can get these forms. You go to their individual websites, and forms are available on their websites. So that is the MLS. Both of these require you to send the exclusion and the first and the last page of the listing agreement. And then Flex MLS or Conejo, they use, once again, you have to send the exclusion with the first and the last page. I can't tell you how many agents don't do this. And if you don't do this, you are in violation. The email for Chrisnet is mls@srar.com. Once again, it is, you must submit this paperwork with the first and the last page. Otherwise, how does the MLS, whatever MLS you use, know that a listing is excluded? And this is the way that they do. So we've done Chrisnet, we've done Flex or Conejo, and we've done Claw. So here's what you're allowed or not allowed to do when a listing is excluded. And I will cover CRMLS. The order is a little wonky. So there's no signs, there's no public facing websites, there's no posting information on social media, no showing the property on a brokerage or franchise operated websites, no digital, no email, no text, no promoting the property to networks, no flyers, postcards, no displaying or sharing on any apps, no open houses. So what you can do is market that property to the agents within the listing broker's office only. Agents of the listing office, broker's office may communicate that listing to their clients as defined in MLS rules and may show and sell the property while it is excluded. So important differentiation is the market within the listing brokerage. Now, I'm the broker for 4 offices, but unfortunately, every single one of those offices has a separate corporation and they have a separate DRE number. So we are not, Westside can't promote to Coastal, Coastal can't promote to Calabasas, Calabasas can't promote to Larchmont. You cannot promote it only into your own office. So you can do an e-blast, but only to your own office and their agents. That's important to know, because the minute that is marketed outside of your office, it has to go on the MLS as active. The minute. You have no other choice. Okay, so it said it could be marketed to the clients of those agents. So CRMLS defines a client of their agents as somebody who has an agency disclosure signed by that person within the last 12 months. So an AD that is signed with a person is a client. That's how they define it. They define it really simply. That's CRMLS. ChrisNet, Flex, and the MLS define it as somebody who has signed an agency disclosure, or somebody who has signed a broker agency agreement, a listing agreement, and this is all within the previous 12 months, an offer or purchase agreement, has signed a lease. It's somebody who has had more than a casual relationship with the broker agent, and that can be demonstrated by written documentation showing that the broker agent has engaged in substantial real estate activity with this party. It's not somebody who walks into an open house and signs your register and you put them on a drip campaign. That is not a client. It's somebody who you have had a significant amount of business or a relationship with. That is how it is defined with ChrisNet, the MLS, and Flex MLS. So the property is not visible to anyone in the MLS. It doesn't show up to anybody. And like I said, showing to clients is allowed of that brokerage. Showings by agents outside of the brokerage is not allowed. And a lockbox can be placed on the property for use by the listing brokerage agents, but you should put a CBS code on that lockbox. CBS means call before showing. So it's a series of digits that they would have to input. So you would refrain from giving that code to anybody until you verify that they are in your brokerage and whatnot. So days on market do not calculate while it's excluded, and time limit on exclusion varies with each MLS. Most exclusions can be the length of the whole listing if you want, and you can sell it to a client while it's excluded. So, all right, marketing outside the listing broker when excluded is prohibited. If you, like I said, if you do market it within one business day, even if it's by mistake, if you market it, it has to go to either coming soon or active. And not entering the property into the MLS within the one business day would be a violation of mandatory submission 7.8 under clear cooperation and subject to fines. And for ChrisNet users, that is 1% of the listing price up to the NAR maximum. Okay, so registered. Now, registered, if you are a CRMLS user, and Coastal is, then you are required to register that excluded listing with the MLS. And ChrisNet users, this is an option for you. It wasn't made mandatory, but you do have this very same option. So it's an online tool called Registered. Oh, that's old, so disregard that. The process is you will enter the exclude from MLS listing into the register system. It's only a few little details: the address, the listing date, the expiration date, the list price, and the marketing start date. And that could be the whole, like I said, that could be the whole term. For ChrisNet members only, you still need to send that first and last page of the listing agreement along with the SCLM within the 2 business days in order to exclude it. And your exclusion, there's something in front of what this says. I can't really see it. Your excluded listings will show in your MLS listings to only you and the broker, which is me. So those are the only 2 people who see it. All right. And this is how you would do it. This is the homepage of ChrisNet and CRMLS users. At the very end, it says links. You click on that. You go down to listing tool. This is different than the way they initially had it. So this was a change about a few months ago. I think it was November. So you go to listing tool. And then it'll bring you to this page, and just click on that and say sign in with Clarity. And then this page will come up, and registered listings. And then you will click on that. And then in order to add a new one, you would just click in new. And like I said, it's very limited information. The address, the start date, the end dates, the marketing start date, and that's it. And then you have fulfilled, CRMLS users, you have fulfilled your obligation. You don't have to send any paperwork, but you still are required to have that paperwork on file, because CRMLS at any time reserves the right to ask for that paperwork. So so you still have to have it, you just don't have to send it to the MLS. So all right, so we've done exclude. So clear cooperation, that started way back in 2020. It applies to residential 1 to 4 and vacant land. And mandatory submission rule, where we said that if something was not marketed, it has to go into the MLS within 2 business days. Clear cooperation states that within 1 business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing to the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. And as I said, it varies as to what the fines are. ChrisNet is the most, 1% of the list price, not to exceed NAR maximum, which currently is $15,000. So a violation of the clear cooperation policy with ChrisNet users could cost you 1% of your commission. So you don't want to do it. The MLS, they give you a warning and then a class, and then a second offense is $2,500. Third offense is $5,000, and then it goes to hearing and suspension. CRMLS is 1% of the list price, but the most that you would be fined would be $2,500. And Flex MLS, they have a scale as to what they will charge. So it's a costly violation, and so that's that. So coming soon, when you put in something in coming soon, once again, if it hasn't been marketed, it has to go in within 2 business days of the listing start date. If it has, it's 1. You need a minimum of 1 exterior photo of the property. All MLSs have their own forms to authorize brokerage to put a listing in the MLS as a coming soon. So go to your MLS, whatever it is, and get that form. ChrisNet has that form on their website. The MLS has it on their website. And the MLS is the only MLS, this is very important, that will allow showings while it's in coming soon. Now, when it first came out, ChrisNet or SRAR allowed showings. So then the MLS said, well, if you're going to allow showings, we're going to allow showings. So then they allowed showings. Then ChrisNet said, let's try to get a consensus of these, what coming soon is and all the rules. And everybody got together and they said, let's all agree on them. And everybody did except the MLS. Okay. So they're still staying with showings. So can offers be turned in and accepted during coming soon? Sure, it can. But those that don't allow showings, it would be subject to inspection. So so that's that. When you're in coming soon, all MLSs, it's visible to agents on the MLS, participants on the MLS. There is a time limit. You can only be in coming soon for 21 days, and it will automatically go to active after that 21 days is up. Once you're out of coming soon, you can never go back. Mona, you have a question?
Yes, I have a quick question. So if somebody has a listing and they are part of the MLS, they can do showings under the coming soon to everyone else, even if those other agents are not part of the MLS. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And then how would you know? You would just know by them allowing you to do a showing under coming soon?
No, listings are, you'd know if it was a claw listing by the listing number. Anything that's SRA or will have an SR in front of it. Anything that's, for coastal, depending on what association you belong to, if it's PWR, it has a PW in it. The MLS, they don't have any. It's just a series of numbers, so that's the MLS listing.
So anything without any letters, just straight numbers, that's how you'd be able to tell if it was from the MLS.
Sure, and then they would have to, and they do allow showings, but they don't have to allow showings. It's up to the seller. So okay, so those are the first initial entries into the MLS. Now, one big, and I can tell you that with SRAR and ChrisNet, I don't think that they have had one clear cooperation violation since it's been instituted. So people are doing things the right way. So, but when you sign on to your association and to your MLS, you agree to abide by the MLS rules and the code of ethics and all of that. And one of the big rules is, we are the purveyor of this information, all of this information. We have been given, as an agent, as a listing agent, I've been given this right and duty to make sure that the information that we put out there for all the other subscribers and participants in whatever MLS, and other MLSs have data share agreements with, this information goes out to the whole state. And we have the obligation to make sure that the information is correct. So one of major problems that we have is that people don't put the right information into the MLS. So one of the violations is MLS Rule 8.3, accuracy of information. So the listing broker or the agent represents that the information put is accurate to the best of the listing broker's knowledge. The listing broker shall use good faith efforts to determine the accuracy of the information and shall not submit or input information which the listing broker knows to be inaccurate. What is one example that anybody can think of that would be the inaccurate information in the MLS? Anybody want to give a shot at that? No? Okay. I'll tell you one. The assessor says it's 2 bedrooms, and well, my client uses this room as a bedroom. The client, a lot of people tend to chat. So bedroom count, well, yes. It's square footage, that's a good one. So bedrooms. Okay, in order for it to be called a bedroom, now just because the assessor has it wrong, I mean, at my first house, the assessor had it as a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. But there was obviously 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. I mean, there was 2 baths. So now, because the assessor says there's only 2 bedrooms, doesn't necessarily mean that that is accurate information, because there are certain things that you need to call it a bedroom, whether it was put in legally or not. And that's that it has a closet and it has a form of egress. And basic, in layman's terms, a way to get out besides the door. So if it doesn't have a window and it doesn't have a closet, but people are calling it a bedroom, it's not a bedroom, and that's inaccurate information. So you can put the correct information in the MLS and then make comments in the private remarks to the agent saying that the assessor says that it's this, but we have this information, and that the buyer is to do their own due diligence in what the true bedroom count or square footage is. That's an example of inaccurate information, and that is, one of violations that that are given to agents in listings. Inaccurate city or area. Now, this happens a lot in Los Angeles. Once again, I bought my first house. It was in Van Nuys when we bought it, and like a month after we bought it, we suddenly lived in Valley Glen, which woohoo, property values went up. How does that happen? Well, first off, it's not the MLS that makes these determinations as to what is the outlines of a city. It's not the MLS that determines this. And it's not the post office that determines this. It is the Board of Supervisors of the City of Los Angeles, because Los Angeles, anybody knows what TMZ stands for? It's not only a gossip place, it stands for 30-mile zone. That's because Los Angeles is a 30-mile radius. 30 miles, people. It's called the Greater Los Angeles area. And that has been chopped up into many little different areas. And so Valley Glen is really LA, but the Board of Supervisors determined that this area is going to be called Valley Glen. Same with Valley Village, same with North Hollywood, same with Sherman Oaks. They're all a division of Los Angeles. So it happens a lot in Los Angeles that agents don't put it in correctly. So here's how, and I know that the MLS does this also, but I'm going to give the example on ChrisNet and CRMLS. When you're inputting a listing, use the map. And there is a little thing that looks like layers, and it brings up a drop down box, and you can choose city or MLS area as a layer. And what happens? It gives you an overlay of this is area. So it gives you the overlay of what area you're in. So if your house is right here, hopefully you can see my cursor, my little arrow, that house, the area would be Reseda. It wouldn't be, I mean, a lot of people, oh, here's a prime example, because I still do, served on the MLS committee, and I served on the MLS assessment. People who have been fined, and they tried to argue they're fine because right over here, Toluca Lake. Here's Toluca Lake, and here's Burbank. And this line right here is Claiborne Street. So one side of the street is Toluca Lake, the other side of the street is Burbank. Now, even agents would still put Toluca Lake on houses in this little area over here. Why? Because the property values of a house in Toluca Lake the property values are higher if it's in Toluca Lake versus Burbank. So they would come in and say, well, the property is on the Burbank side of Toluca Lake. There is no such thing as the Burbank side of Toluca Lake. Burbank has their own fire department. They have their own police department. It is a totally different city. They're not even a part of Los Angeles. So that is prime example of inaccurate city and area location. And when you're inputting a listing, input the listing on the map, input it and choose the map when you're inputting. This is a big one. If I have agents here from Larchmont, I don't know why, but you guys just don't get this one. Misuse of public remarks. I'm sorry to call out Larchmont. That probably wasn't very nice of me, but I do get a lot of violations from the MLS for agents who violate this this MLS rule. And the rule is this: it's 12.5, and information in the public remarks shall only relate to the marketing, description, and condition of the property. No contact information is permitted, including names, phone, fax numbers, who uses a fax anymore, email addresses, or website addresses, including virtual tours and transaction tracking URLs. No showing instructions are permitted, including references to a lockbox, alarm, gate, or other security codes, or the occupancy of the property. This is very important. If you guys notice, when you're inputting a listing on in ChrisNet or CRMLS, and you say submit, sometimes you get a pop-up window and it says, it looks like you may be in violation because you alluded to the vacancy. Or, so I mean, it's trying to help you. It's looking for keywords and it's giving you a warning, but some agents just don't heed that warning. So, but a statement that the property shall be delivered vacant is not a violation. But you can't say in the public remarks that the house is vacant. Why? Because that could attract people you don't want attracted. So no websites, no open house information, none of that, no email addresses, no phone numbers, none of that belongs in the public remarks. It's strictly a description of the property. So please do not make that mistake. Next, one of the biggest things is in regards to photos. Rule 11.5, photographs, images on the MLS. So here's the big one that people don't do. At least one photo or graphic image accurately displaying the exterior of the listed property is required to be posted on the MLS within 5 days of submission. That's 5 calendar days, not business days, of the listing in all categories other than lands, lots and lands. So there needs to be one photograph within 5 days in the MLS of the exterior. Okay, here's the other half of this rule that people violate. Branding of photographs or images, including but not limited to photographs displaying for sale signs posted on the property, is prohibited. What does that mean? I'm taking a picture of the house that, the exterior. I'm required to put a picture of the exterior of the house on the MLS. And I took it. Well, my sign is there. Well, what am I supposed to do? Take my sign down? Well, no, but you can graphically blur it or do something. Your sign can't appear in that photo. It just can't. We want to know what else can appear in the photo? People and pets can't appear in these photos. That's an MLS rule. So, a lot of people don't put photos in, and it's the easiest thing to do. What you can't do is grab a screenshot from Google or Street View or something like that. Why? Because those are copyrighted, and it will cost you a lot of money if they come after you. Okay, inaccurate status. That's another big no-no. It's rule 10.2, reporting of sales. Listings with accepted offers shall be reported to the MLS or input into the MLS database as pending or active under contract within 2 business days of the acceptance by the listing broker. So I just had this with an agent. She had an accepted offer on Friday. So they needed to change that status by Tuesday. I don't believe they still changed the status. And the only exceptions to this is like probates, like with court confirmations and stuff, but you have to change the status within 2 business days after it changes. Now, like it says, it can go to active under contract or it can go to pending. What's the difference between the two? Active under contract means that that your seller is looking for backup offers and is willing to show the property. Now, if your seller isn't willing to show the property or isn't looking for backup offers, you shouldn't have that listing in active under contract, because guess what? That is also a violation. That's very important. If you're just keeping it active under contract so that you can have open houses and try to get clients and whatnot, and your seller really isn't looking for a backup offer, you need to change that status. Auto sold. I will preface this because that I don't think that the MLS has an auto sold. Now, but ChrisNet and CRMLS does. So it's rule 10.2, reporting of sales. Upon final closing, the listing broker shall report or input the listing in the MLS as sold and report the selling price within 2 business days of the final closing date. The listing, if it goes to auto sold, it means the system changed the status to close 5 days after your close of escrow that was entered. That is an automatic violation. So, and you'll know if a listing is auto sold because it'll have a little red flag next to it. So that is a thing of auto sold. Is Saturday or holiday considered a business day? No. Saturday, no matter how many escrow people think it's a business day, it is not. Just because the banks are open, but no. There's no excuse for this to go to auto sold because the MLS sends many reminders that your listing is set to close. It's on this date. And then even after it closes, it tells you, okay, we're going to change this to auto sold. And you have 5 days after the close date that you thought it was in order to rectify it. You have to go in and change and manually change it to sold and make sure that the information is correct, the price and all of that. If I will get these notices for ChrisNet users, and I will send them to the agent, and I will forward it on to the agent, even though the agent has already gotten this, and say, don't let this go to auto sold. It's an automatic violation. It's an unnecessary automatic violation. Okay, so that's really the top MLS mistakes and possible violations. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any hands. I don't see any questions in the chats. Nope. Why is for sale prohibited from? Because it's branded. It has your information on it. And you can't have branded information on the MLS. That includes a virtual tour, by the way, people. That's why if you have a virtual tour of your listing, and you're given two versions. One is a branded, one is an unbranded. The unbranded goes on the MLS. Your branded can go on your YouTube channel. It can go anywhere, but nothing branded can go. No photographs or no tours can go on the MLS. But it's my listing. No, Alan, it's not your listing. It's my listing. Remember, the listing belongs to the brokerage, but the MLS is a place for all brokerages, and it's not to promote any one brokerage. So your branded information doesn't belong on the MLS. Yes, this is being recorded. It will be sent to all the admins, to all the offices, and they will determine how you can see it. Some people have YouTube channels. I don't know. So check with your office administrator. So I'll probably send it out tomorrow. I think it's available to me.
Hey, Rich, good afternoon. It's Emilio in Calabasas. Nick Jacobus has a question.
Yeah, yes. Some you didn't cover, but on the commission section, there's a a checkbox or a drop-down box that has the compensation, and it's like, there's a couple of options, dual variable compensation and stuff like that. I'm a little confused about what's appropriate in that area.
Well, if you're in your listing, you have a predetermined agreement with your seller that if you represent both sides, you'll reduce your commission. That's a variable rate compensation, and you have to disclose that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that needs to be disclosed. Anybody else? Good question. All right, well, that's it. I did it 10 minutes early. All right, so thanks for joining me. I'm going to stop the record.